Are you receiving me? Father Moo. All church radio all the time, baby. Here's another little piece of weird music recorded back in the day. Somewhere, yeah, it gotta be 2014 for this one. Cruft World, another Father Moo pseudonym slash musical solo project name. We'll get more into that into the Who is Father Moo video. I started writing a script for it, but it was getting too long. I just want to scrape it down to the bare details. In fact, what I really want to look at is the instruments I use. Since in this we focus so much on modular, and for me, modular is very much the be-all and end-all of synthesis or of music production. But I had to learn a lot of instruments to get here, so this one I think I was actually playing one of those Roland V drum kits and jamming along with the synths to make percussion sounds. That's why I named it Live Session, because I drummed live on it. But yeah, just want to repeat my advice again. Always record yourself. Don't worry if what you record sounds like crap. Tape is cheap. You don't ever have to play it for anybody except yourself. But I think you'll be happy you did. As you learn more, your old stuff may sound kind of cringy, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the learning process. And Lord knows I like listening to my own music now. I don't care how egotistical that may sound. I'm happy I have recordings of myself to listen to. But I always got to do something new. So let's do something new today. Fade that out. I had another note for myself in my planning for today, but I'm throwing that straight out the window for an idea I had 5 minutes ago. Sorry, another horrible coughing session again from the old Father Moo here. Yeah. Yesterday I briefly did a little bit of FM on the oscillators. And FM has a scary reputation. People think they can wrap their heads around, normal, quote-unquote, synthesis, by which I mean subtractive synthesis, sometimes called, wait, I always get these wrong. Was Bob Moog the East Coast? He was the East Coast, right? East Coast synthesis. FM wasn't limited to East or West Coast. I guess Buchla is also subtractive, especially in the early days. But FM is a technique that was most famously used on the DX7 series, and they had a very distinctive sound. And they were 6 operator synths. That means they had 6 sine waves. Later on, they had other kinds of waves, but let's start with sine waves. They had 6 sine waves interacting with each other, and being used in various algorithms to make what we call FM programming. And they made very distinctive sounds, and we're not going to do anything like that today. Screw that crap completely. What I'm going to do is 2 operator FM, which you can do on any modular that you have. You can do it on a lot of hardware synths too, but in modular it's easy to and quick to set up. And I want to do it just from this very basic principle, just so we can hear the sound sort of evolve over time. And and how you can utilize this to create experimental sounds of your own, because there's so much you can do with so little. It's amazing. So first of all, let's do a little history lesson. Here I've put two of my most powerful oscillators, A, and they're set by default to sines, which is great. That's what we'll be using today. I've also built a very simple event sequencer on a slow tempo who will just play a note on the envelope. I'm not even getting into complex envelopes. It's just a perfectly normal little ping here. And I'm going to send one sine wave to it and let it ping. Feel free to ping. Here we go. Maybe we can even fade it in a bit. It's good. And let's go even slower. Okay, so I won't go too history lesson on you, but I want to do a little bit at the beginning. So there was this guy, his name was John Chowning. He was a professor at, I think it was Stanford. And wherever he was a professor at, he was a music dude. And he was experimenting with vibrato. So one typical way we do vibrato is we would let's take an LFO, and let's put it in sine wave mode. You can see it's sending a blue signal here, and we can send the vibrato to the pitch input here, and when we turn this up, we should get a nice little wobble in the pitch. Well, it's a bit of a slow wobble, so let's speed it up. Okay, that's vibrato. Vibrato is something you hear human singers do all the time. They usually start by singing a note, and at the end they go, ah, wah, 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 wah. They, wobble their voice a bit. It's very normal. And other instruments like the violin will do it and so on. Because so many instruments imitate human singing or human singing musicality styles. So this guy was, as I said, experimenting with vibratos. But he started saying, okay, well, these vibratos are cool. If it goes too slow, all you get is just like a drifty pitch. It's not super useful. If you do it at a higher speed, you get this. But he was like, let's go higher. Let's push the envelope, dudes. So at a certain point, the wobble starts to get too high for its own good. We're still set to low here. Let's dial it back and set the knob to high and keep going. I can almost not hear the wobble anymore. Whoa, what's that? What's happening? It sounds like a chord. It's no longer a wobble at this point. Well, there I've tuned it to an octave, but it doesn't sound like the default octave. Here we were at 50. Let's turn this to 0. That's what we originally sounded like, and let's dial back up to 50. So what we're doing now when the wobble gets too fast to even be audible as a wobble is we're doing FM, frequency modulation. What John Chowning discovered is that if your vibratos become very fast, the effect they have on the original pitch will be to adjust it tonally. It will no longer be a wobble that you hear. It'll be something completely different, man. Check that out. I can still get my wobble at the very bottom, but so all of a sudden we have all these weird sonic, variations happening to the sound. As I say, this is 2-operator FM. It doesn't sound anything like a DX7 right now, but you can get there. You can definitely, by creating longer strings of oscillators modulating each other, you can create much more complex sounds. So as I said, this one is an LFO, but an oscillator and an LFO are just the same thing. One is just going faster than the other. This LFO is useful enough that it gives me the high speed. It's designed for FM. I'm going to let the other oscillator do that job now. So these are both tuned to E4, but the amount I'm sending to pitch is what's causing it to do weird FM. You can treat this guy as almost the same as this guy now because he's in high mode. He's basically an audible oscillator. So, oscillator A here has a pitch input and another pitch input, but here's FMA. This is an actual input designed for frequency modulation. So let's feed him in there. So if you want to start exploring FM on your own, get an oscillator in any system, find the FM input. I don't know why this one's called FMA, but it is. And then take another oscillator, they should both be in sine wave mode, and feed the second oscillator into the first one. If they're tuned to the same note, it won't be that interesting, so explore the tuning on the second oscillator, and you should get something more interesting. For the purposes of right now, I'm going to make one of my favorites here, the random generator, and send his pitch input, send him to control the pitch of oscillator A2. So I'm only controlling his pitch, but his pitch is going to adjust how the FM actually sounds here. I kept talking about sine waves. Let's see what happens if we switch the wave. You're going to get harder, harsher sounds. But if that's what you want, great. So getting exclusively sine waves still gets you lots of interesting sounds. Sine waves, again, is what they use to make the smooth electric pianos and wooden marimba sounds of the DX7. But later on, Yamaha did offer other waveforms. And since you have the freedom to do whatever you want, don't take my advice, just do whatever you like. Getting almost into distortion, as you can hear there. So this is really just a template for experimentation. I'm not trying to tell you to make a sound. I want to just give the starting point of FM here and show what kind of advanced level weirdness you can get out of what is essentially two oscillators and an LFO at this point. If I start creating a few more, here's a random step generator, and here's a normal LFO. And I start sending these to other inputs, such as this guy's pitch input. And this one into either guy's pitch input. We instantly start going into outer space territory. So again, part of the fun of Modular is just making really weird noises, and FM and a couple of LFOs will let you do that. Again, there's no filter in this circuit. There is no distortion module in this circuit. All the audio weirdness is coming from two oscillators and the way their pitches are being screwed with. This guy having two pitch inputs currently valid, and this guy having one. Certainly if you experiment with things like pulse width, the kind of wave, sync is sort of for something else, but it can't hurt. You can always do something weird with it. If you look at the oscillators here, this one in the Nord Modular has an FM input and also an amplitude modulation input. So again, I think this is designed specifically for FM, which the Nord Modular excels at. I wonder... This oscillator C has FM and AM. What about B? I was trying to find one with two FM inputs, but I don't see one here. And how about these weird guys? Spectral do it? No, but Spectral has FM. And Formant doesn't offer an FM in, he just offers two pitch controlled ins. But anyway, I highly recommend you do this. When I was first building a modular, hardware modular, there was a time when all I had was two oscillators and a VCA and an envelope, and I was doing this, all night. There was so much sound you can get out of these. Oh, here's another way of looking at it. What if instead of sending pitch inputs to these, come on out. What if you sent the envelope outputs from your the CV control from your envelope to the pitch instead? Then suddenly you're in a whole new area. So even other than LFOs, which are, you'd think, the default for CV, you can send sequencer data, you can send envelope data, and indeed the DX7s used envelopes to great effect to create awesome FM sounds. So yeah, I will save this because I promise to save everything, and that's my motto. We're going to call this one Primitive 2-op. Again, op here means operator, and I'm just going to call it Primitive FM. That makes more sense for the future. Operator here meaning the same thing as oscillator, except that this oscillator is not being heard. It's only affecting another oscillator. But we would still call this 2-op FM. If you wanted to, you could... Oh, we've got one right here. Here's a third oscillator. If I drag this in and start doing this kind of stuff... Whoa. Now we're in 3-op FM. But I'll just take that out again. You can repatch it in on your own time. So yeah, Primitive FM. Try it out. Believe me when I say that there is a world of sounds in these very, very limited setups that we have here. And although it may not sound super musical now, eventually you will find a ton of stuff in there. So explore for yourself. Enjoy. We're going to close on that very annoying sound.